All right, call the meeting to order. Are we good? Good. Okay. And I'll ask Commissioner Notarianni to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the record will reflect that the district attorney is participating by phone. Again, I don't want to ask him where he is all the time. It's at an undisclosed location, but that's okay. So I trust that everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes that were circulated, and I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading and approve the minutes as circulated. We got a motion, second by the sheriff. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on agenda items only? I will note for the record that I got an email from a citizen last night. Didn't come in till after 10 o'clock, but I had at least an hour of sleep in me by then. But I did read it this morning, and so I've given it to the warden. We'll address that, during the time of for public comments. So we'll move to the motions. First item on the agenda is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison. Again, they've been circulated prior to coming in today, so assuming everybody's had an opportunity to review them, I'll entertain a motion to approve the current payables.
Motion.
You have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. On the question, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The current payables are approved for payment. Next, we'll go to the Controller's report. Controller DiBileo.
Thanks, Your Honor. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of March 2023, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $543,668.99 as of March 31st of 2023. The balance in the inmate checking account was $378,071.79 as of March 31st. And in addition, as of March 31st, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment accounts of $757,091.89, which is earning approximately $3,000 per month, which will mature in July of 2023, which we will address as we get closer to that time frame. During the month of March 2023, $71,118.76 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of county inmates, and a detailed listing of those expenses are attached to my report. And in addition, and lastly, this board has recently discussed having an external audit performed on both the prison inmate and canteen accounts. Representatives from the Controller's Office and the Prison Business Office will be meeting today with the Joseph M. Alou accounting firm to discuss the scope of the audit. And that firm came from Attorney Ruggiero, I believe. Frank, I think you said that using Alou, the Alou firm, would be acceptable.
What I did is I had provided
I had provided a list of auditors that Mr. Arduino had supplied to me, and I sent that out to the entirety of the board. I think Judge Gibbons had responded thereafter, and there was no additional discussion that I'm aware after that, at least relative to me. I don't have any issue with Mr. Alou at all, and I know that he is one of the auditors that was, I believe, submitted, was on the list that was provided to me from Mr. Arduino.
Good. I just wanted to make it clear that I did not personally pick this firm, but I have no problems with this firm, obviously. And we anticipate that an RFP from Alou Accounting will be presented to this board for a vote on accepting and beginning these audits at our next meeting. And that concludes my report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. DiBileo. Anybody have any questions for the controller? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report. Got a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The controller's report for March is approved. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Mr. McConaughey and the Community Corrections Center report for the month of March.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's the house arrest report for the month of March. Program totals. Adult house arrest had 161 participants. Juvenile had 31. Programs revenues. House arrest had $53,626.35. Juvenile brought in $5,570 for a total of $59,196.35. Year-to-date totals on both departments, $176,909.29. The program's expenses was $95,695.98. Program's completions was 31. Violations were 13. We still have one outstanding warrant for a house arrest. Budget overall, overtime's at 18%, expenses at 26%, and revenues at 26%. That's the end of my report.
Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept his report and approve it. I got a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The report is approved for March. Thank you.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
Okay. Next, we'll call on the warden.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for March was 704 inmates, 527 were county inmates. We averaged 614 adult males, 3 juvenile males, and 87 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees was 177. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. Our staffing update, the current correctional officer numbers break down to 169 full-time officers on shift, 7 out on workers' comp, 2 on continuous FMLA, 62 with intermittent FMLA, 1 on administrative leave, and 2 full-time vacancies for a total of 181 full-time officers. As of March 31st, revenue was at 29%, expenses were at 27%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 3 in the month of March. On March 17th, a female inmate on a suicide prevention watch was observed attempting to harm herself. Staff placed her in the emergency restraint chair for her own safety. On March 19th, this same female inmate was again observed attempting to harm herself, and staff placed her in the ERC for her own safety again. And on March 31st, a female inmate with known mental health issues refused to get out of the shower to return to her cell. She began to rant and rave and was directing her anger at the officers, threatening them with physical harm. An extraction team had to be assembled to remove her from the shower, and she was placed in the ERC until she calmed down. PREA, there were 2 PREA investigations completed in the month of March. One was an allegation of voyeurism on the part of a staff member, and it was deemed unfounded. The other was an allegation of inmate sexual misconduct. It was also deemed unfounded. And the completed investigations have been forwarded to the DA's office for further action if deemed appropriate. Free inmate library, I'm in receipt of a draft contract between ViaPath and the county, which will provide free books on the tablets from over 5,000 publishers. The proposed cost for the program would be $20,000 for the year, for year one, and $15,000 per year thereafter. I'm proposing that the funds from the canteen account are used so that we can provide the free library to the inmates. I am therefore seeking permission to use canteen accounts to further pursue this matter. Last but not least is personnel. I have several recommendations for various vacancies if the board chooses to have an executive session. And this concludes my report.
Thanks, Tim. The library, I made reference at the beginning to an email I received that was sent last night. That one of the questions in the email concerned the library, and there will be no charge to any of the inmates for any of the books provided?
That is correct. There is a charge, and again, I'm asking to see if the board would consider allowing me to use canteen account funds for that annual fee, but for the individuals who are incarcerated throughout the course of the year, there would be no charge for them.
Okay.
There is a charge for the service.
Right, but the canteen account would fund that, right?
That's what I'm hoping for, yes, sir.
Okay. And there was also a question as to why this couldn't be routed through the Scranton Public Library.
Right, we did look at that a few months back. Unfortunately, the end result was that they don't have a way of separating it for us so that there's not internet access, and we can't allow internet access for the individuals incarcerated in the prison.
Okay.
I mean, we can, we just don't want to do that. I don't think that would have a good end. So because of the inability to separate that out for us and make it non-internet usable, this is the only path. And this happens to be the same path that the Department of Corrections uses. All the state correctional institutions are using the same we'd be tapping into that inmate library, for lack of a better term.
Okay. And is it books? Is it books and periodicals? Is it?
It is books. I think there are some periodicals, but I haven't reviewed a list.
Okay. All right. Can we get a list?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions for the warden on his report?
As far as the mandatory double shift situation, Warden, any progress on that? Leveling that down for the employees at all?
If you notice on that overtime attachment that you should have, I'm not sure if you do or don't, I'm going to take a look at it. It went down a little bit in the last pay period. It's just been, it was up, it's always up in the beginning of the year because of individuals having their annual sick time. It starts to go down about now until the summertime when vacation season kicks in. And then overtime will spike again because of having to fill in for officers who are taking vacation time. So it's down significantly in the last pay period than where it was the first pay period, the first 3-4 pay periods of the month of the year were significantly higher than the last one. I'm hoping it stays down like that, but it's so unpredictable because it has to do with people using sick time, vacation time, whether or not we have vacancies as well. The vacancies will obviously result in an increase in overtime to cover for those individuals who aren't on the payroll. So right now, with 2 vacancies, I anticipate, and this time of year, I anticipate that the overtime is going to be lower than average.
Are we interviewing to fill those vacancies, or?
Well, I just reached out to our Human Resources Department this week, asking them for any and all applicants that they have for correctional officer positions. I started briefly reviewing them, and yeah, our intent is that we're going to very shortly start interviews. I have at least 10 individuals right now that seem like they might be prime candidates for positions. Again, we have 2 vacancies, but sometimes that can flip rather quickly.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions? Okay,
Ted, Mark Powell, I have some questions on the library. So the system you are recommending, that is currently in use by the state corrections?
Yes, sir.
All right, are you aware of any other county prisons that use that program for ebooks?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure there are, but I couldn't name a single county prison that's using it at this point in time.
Were you able to obtain any other bids from any other vendors other than this one?
No, we've been kind of researching this for the last, it seems like 6 to 9 months, and it seems like Overdrive is the company that, and they're contracted with ViaPath that used to be known as GTL. GTL's in a lot of the county prisons and the state prison. They're a phone provider basically, but they do other things as well, and they kind of contract that out to a company called Overdrive, and they seem to be the only player in the market right now.
Do you know the cost they charge the state prison as a comparison?
I do not. I could certainly find that out.
Yeah, I'm generally supportive and clearly think it's a good idea. I just think we waited a long time and lack certain basic information, and that's my concern. We don't even know what books are available or what periodicals or newspapers. So personally, I would like a little more information on those type of details. And if it's roughly, somewhere between $20 and $25 per inmate, what is that comparative cost per state inmate, if they have that in existence?
I will do my best to find out for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for the warden? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Warden. Stick around.
Thank you.
Thanks. Please. Okay, anybody from the public wish to address the board? Joan?
Joan Hodawan, Scranton. I would just like to ask the warden, are we able to get local newspapers for the inmates? The reason I ask, I understand there have been conversations in the last couple of months about seeing if we can get inmates who are qualified the opportunity to vote, get them registered and get them to vote. One thing that would help in that regard is getting them informed about, local government situations. So can they get access to something like the Times Tribune, which is the major paper in Lackawanna County? Is that one of the newspapers they might be able to access? That would be good. Anything that would, if they wish to vote and they're qualified to vote and we can get them registered, to keep them informed on the local issues so that they're informed voters.
Okay. Thanks, Joan. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. My name is Phil Yeviks, and I'm here. I'm a resident of Scranton. I'm here this afternoon as a representative of a group called NEPA Prison Advocates. We're simply a voluntary association of people concerned with improving the conditions of those who have been or are currently incarcerated. I want to begin by saying I appreciate the efforts of the board to increase transparency. Over the last 10 years, the difference is dramatic, and the public availability of your meetings and the opportunity for the public to know what's going on has been greatly increased. So we greatly appreciate that. And based upon those, there are 3 areas of concern that have consistently been raised. The first is with healthcare, and Commissioner Chermak has already been addressing that. It's an issue nationwide, the difficulty in getting enough help to provide quality healthcare, but it's certainly among the most common complaints that those who are incarcerated have, is the quality and consistency of the healthcare they receive. So we just want to keep that on the radar, that your efforts to make sure that you're getting your money's worth for the contract for healthcare that it is carried through on. Secondly, there's the area of the inmate accounts. And our colleague Denise Brown had emailed you all with several of the specific concerns she had there. Again, just hope that as things unfold, they can be addressed one by one. A lot of questions about that. We recognize that Judge Gibbons had formulated and you approved the statement about the guidelines for the use of the inmate accounts, and that's huge. A colleague from another county told us that his warden told him that the Pennsylvania state the Commonwealth laws prohibit the use of inmate funds for anything that the prison is legally obligated to provide. Now, I don't know that that's the third-hand account, so I'm not sure that that's true, but if it is true, it does raise some questions about some of the things that the inmate accounts have been used for in the past. So just want to put that forward. And again, Denise raises several other questions that hopefully you can address as you move on. Finally, there's the area of chaplaincy services. Again, our colleagues at the Scranton Area Ministerium have addressed this over the last 2 years, Reverend Doug Posgate, and we are delighted that Jubilee Ministries has stepped up and is providing some chaplaincy services at the Lackawanna County Jail right now. However, we still have some concerns. 2 general areas, I guess. One is in terms of the representation of all of the religious backgrounds of the inmates, that those be adequately represented. And the other is what we would call pastoral concerns. If an inmate has to be informed that a relative died, if there's a suicide and those who are involved, the different sensitive situations that have to be addressed, not having someone available 24/7 with the training and the background to address those concerns is a problem going forward. So we just want to keep the issue of addressing the spiritual needs of all of the inmates in front of the board, and hopefully you can keep that going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. My name is Maggie Craig, and I live in Scranton. I'm just wondering if there's any updates on the solitary confinement that's being used in the prison.
What I can tell you, Maggie, is I had some conversations with a couple of different people outside the prison. I haven't had a chance to talk to my fellow board members about it, but in terms of an independent review, the warden and I have discussed it too, of our policies and procedures with an eye toward addressing some of the concerns that have been raised. I know from getting inmate correspondence myself that they are appreciative of the increase in the number of hours that they're getting outside the cells. So it seems that at least they're happy with some of the responses they're getting. Can't guarantee everybody that they're going to be happy with all of the responses that they get, but we are looking.
I think an independent review sounds great. And I also wanted to point out one thing that's in the referendum that I think can be a place where maybe we can take a little bit more action sooner, and it's the reporting section of the article. So in the reporting section, it asks that correctional facilities are required to report on a monthly basis to the Lackawanna County Prison Board the following: the dates and reasons for any lockdown of the facility or any section of the facility, and then specifically the number of times any person has been held in solitary confinement with the duration and reason for each confinement, and then finally the age, sex, gender identity, race, and ethnicity of each person held in solitary confinement during the month. So I think we're already doing an extraordinary incident report. I'm wondering if maybe this can be included in the reporting next month or the month after to start to give the public a little bit more information on when solitary is being used and why. I think that came up the last time we spoke, that we know what the policy reasons are for putting an individual into solitary confinement, but we don't know what the practice actually is.
Okay.
Is that something we can maybe consider?
We'll certainly talk about it, sure,
Okay.
sure.
I also have, if I can, I have a copy of the article here that I can give to you, and then a report from the Vera Institute. It's an evidence brief on the impacts of solitary confinement. I think it's a great aggregation of the research and studies that have been done that kind of boils down kind of where we're coming from an evidence-based perspective. Can I give it to you?
Sure.
Thank you. And is there an email where we can that we can send this information to you all? Like, what's the most appropriate channel for giving it to you outside of the prison board meetings?
Well, you can send it to me.
Sounds good.
How about that? I'll give you my email. Okay. Thank you. Do you have a
That's
pencil
all. A pencil?
to write down my email?
I can write it down.
Okay, it's gibbonsj@lackawannacounty.org. Okay. Anybody else from the public?
Eileen Acapenti, I'm from Dunmore. I just want to clarify, when we get the books, when I asked last meeting, they said everybody has a tablet, and that they have access to it from like 8 a.m. till like late in the evening. But I'm just wondering, when do they get charged then for the use of the tablet? Or how are they charged for the use of the tablet to read these books?
They're not charged for that.
They're not charged at all? No. It's free the entire time they use? Okay, that was the question I had. Thank you.
Anybody else? You're not ballot harvesting, are you, Bev?
What? Pardon me?
Are you ballot harvesting there? That's okay.
Bev DeBarros from Scranton. I do want to update on the ballots. The registration applications for first-time voters were submitted to the Bureau of Elections last week. There were 41 from our county and 16 from other counties, which went through the mail separately, county by county. And we had 6 people who were active already, and so I checked online whether their status was active. Most of them were. There was maybe one who wasn't active anymore. So that was a good report. When I took them down, the 41 papers, they were stamped and dated by hand right then and there, so they are all sent out. They're probably receiving them now. Most of the people wanted their voter registration cards sent to their home address for safekeeping, but there were 9 who those cards will be coming in the mail to the jail. Most, so far, been able to handle everything outside of the jail. I mean, we go in and get, it's been a real education because it's trying to explain to individuals the difference between a primary, an election, a general election, who's running when we don't have the information. I had asked for sample ballots so we could show them, but Beth Hopkins, she said, no, they don't provide those. Just so many situations come up that we try to answer. Another one that comes up is check whether you want Democrat, Republican, or other, or independent. And so right away, some of them check independent. And then it's the explanation. Well, that wouldn't work in a primary. You wouldn't get a ballot. You have to choose one of the major parties, and talk to Beth about that. And so after the explanation, they scribble that out and then pick one of the parties. And then Beth said that's fine as long as we initial where they scribbled out. These details, really, I think they're important. Now, coming up, this next week, we'll be doing the ballots, the petitions for, these are, I need to get a few more downstairs, but these are the ones for the actual ballot, asking for the actual mail-in ballot and the reason why and so forth. And these many will go to out of county, but these will all go in county. Now, just like the last time I sent 16 to out of county, I do the envelope and the stamp and all that. Now, when the mail-in ballots come in, they will have to be filled out and sent out by mail, by U.S. postal mail. And they all need a stamp. And so who's going to give that stamp? We can't bring stamps in the jail. They don't have stamps in the jail. So that is something that's going to have to be addressed. There will be 41.
Tim, do we have a mail machine?
Yes, and we'll provide that for you, sir.
Okay.
Good, because we're going to be tracking every single one, because it's a lot of work, and we want to know that every vote went through. And there's a way to do that, and that information, and I have more information. You remember this brochure from Common Cause that I showed before. And they said Pennsylvania legislators should be passing legislation to take care of that problem, extend the right to vote via an agent already for disabled voters, and I guess those are nursing homes, that there's an agent that can take those mail-in ballots to the Bureau of Elections, but they want this to include jailed voters, and that would make it so good, because the mail in our jail, if somebody sends something, doesn't it go to some other state?
If it's incoming, outgoing mail is picked up by the U.S. Postal Service daily. Well, Monday through Saturday.
Okay. And then, so after these are being mailed in, there'll be incoming mail from the post office. And there won't be any problems.
No, and if there is, we'll do our best to, if there's something that we're not thinking about, we'll do our best to rectify it in a timely way.
Yeah, we'll be in touch about that. And there is a way for us to track whether each ballot has been accepted, and we will be tracking that for everybody. Okay, so like Joan said about how they could get information. And we talked about this in February once this was put forth for the Times Tribune and for ECTV to help us get information to the voters. Well, ECTV was great, and I wish Mark could explain this, but I'll try. He spent a lot of time explaining to me about so one time I'm in there in Dorm A, and there's a great program on about the prisons. And it's an ECTV interview with local people. You couldn't hear it. So I saw it on there and went forward, and two of the inmates were looking up, trying to, but there was so much noise in there. And the volume, he said, look, I'm trying the volume as high as I can get it. And Mark said that when the equipment is sent in there, for some reason, they have the volume set at 50%. And I don't know if there's a way that that could be fixed so that you can hear, or we talked about maybe get captioning for local programs like that. And what I was concerned about, and went to the League of Women Voters again, went to people that I know, and now I guess I'm asking if any of you would do this. Go to ECTV, make some short public service announcements, the difference between, like I said, primary voting, general voting, the difference between Democrat and Republican, just to address the voting issues, for information. I remember learning that stuff in high school, but I don't know about anymore. So ECTV, like I said, they're willing to film this and broadcast for public service. All right. And then as far as the Times Tribune, we talked about getting the papers in there. And after a week went by, there were no papers. So I called the Times and said, did you hear about this, that we want to do this? So I talked to Cheryl, who's in charge of multiple subscriptions. And she told me that in Luzerne County, they do it, and it's an unbelievable rate. I wish I could get that rate. But so I told her, be expecting something from the jail, or if you want to get in touch with the jail. And another time went by. Oh, no, right after I talked to her, I forwarded that information that she told me to Amanda Newhart, who is my contact person. Like, every time we go in, we have 5 volunteers working on this program. And we go in 2 by 2. And the day before, I call in, or email Amanda Newhart and tell her who's coming and what time for a 2-hour time in there. And that's how that works. So when I got the information from the Times about how that would work, I emailed all that out and said, Amanda, send this all around because I don't know who to send it to. So again, time goes on, and then I hear from Colleen that she is going to handle it. I was very thankful. And now I just talked to her, and she said finally she thinks that last Saturday the newspaper started. But the mail-in ballots are going to be submitted in about 10 days. The ballot, request. So it's a little late, but I don't know. It would have been nice to have it earlier. And one other thing that worked out really well I want to show you. Lieutenant Toluto, Norma Jeffries and I went to his office right away, and he came up with this poster that he designed, and he had copies put in every unit so people knew, volunteers are available to help you vote. So that was great. We've learned a lot of things that should make this process easier the next time around for whoever does it. Get my drift. Anyway, when we're all said and done, we'll be compiling a final report from us volunteers to Common Cause and say, you can change our status. Page 5, I think it is, page 6. Here we are. With the nice maps. We are in the category of no policies to inform eligible voters about elections and dates. And we're also in the category of how to contact, that there are no policies on how to contact eligible voters in jail. Like I said, that'll change. We will report that to them going forward. And I think that's all I had. Any questions? Anybody volunteering to make public service announcements to ECTV?
One thing I could tell you is that the Bureau of Elections,
Yeah.
talking about mail-in ballots, has an agreement with the post office in the Viewmont Mall that even on election day, if a mail-in ballot is brought to that post office, they will deliver it to the Bureau of Elections to have it counted that day. So it doesn't have to be mailed over to the county across the street. They'll deliver it to the Bureau of Elections from the post office at the Viewmont Mall. So for anyone wanting to hand deliver a mail-in ballot to
Yeah,
that
of
post
course,
office,
of course,
they'll bring
our
it over
inmates
same
can't
day.
hand deliver a mail-in ballot. You know,
Whatever that's worth.
yeah, thanks, but, you know, we have to go, we couldn't take a ballot from an inmate to go hand it to
Yeah,
the,
I'm talking about in general,
yeah.
the public, yeah.
For the public. And another thing about the stamps, it would be so nice if it was government, you know, it's a government document, if they had the postage paid.
Excuse me, I said the Viewmont Mall, I meant the Steamtown Mall.
Oh,
There's a
I was
post
thinking
office
Steamtown,
in
but.
the Steamtown Mall on Lackawanna Avenue.
Right,
They
yeah,
will deliver the
Yeah.
same-day mail-in ballots to
yeah.
the Bureau of Elections, I'm sorry.
So I asked Beth if the federal government paid the postage for ballots, you know, mail-in ballots. She said they did during COVID, but anymore they don't, and we have to provide postage. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Bev. Thanks for everything you do, too. Appreciate that. Anybody else from the public? Okay. Warden, I think you said you wanted to have a brief
Yes.
executive session on a personnel matter? Okay. All right, so I'll ask everybody to leave the room. Don't go too far. Okay, back on? Okay, so we conducted an executive session concerning some personnel matters, and the board, Warden, would you tell us what you want the board to vote on, please?
Sure, absolutely. I was recommending the promotion of Eugene Ruddy from lieutenant to captain. We have a captain vacancy. And I was also recommending what's more of a lateral move for William Sabatel to move from substance abuse mental health specialist to correctional counselor.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. We'll take the first one to promote Eugene Ruddy to the position of captain.
Motion.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, he'll be promoted.
Thank you. And
Other
the
one?
other one is William Sabatel for correctional counselor.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Okay. On the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Sabatel will be, is it a promotion or a lateral transfer?
It's more of a lateral transfer, yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, let me see. What else? Any members have any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Jerry second.
Oh, Jerry? Yeah, I was gonna say, oh. Okay. On the question, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.